Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Item Breakdowns, a series where we take a look at every League of Legends item individually and break down their build paths, stats, and animations and visuals. Today we're going to be rounding off with the final of the tank mythic items with Frostfire Gauntlet, an item that packs a lot of punch, armor, and an extra slow if you need sticking power in your kit. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into it. So the first thing we're going to take a look at on Frostfire are the basic stats. So right away we see we have 15 ability haste, which equals out to about 13% cooldown reduction, 50 armor, 350 health, and 25 magic resistance. In addition to this, the mythic passive gives us 100 health per legendary item that we have, and an increase of 6% in size. When we get to the visuals and animation, I'm going to give more context to the size portion of the mythic. So, because this item gives us no offensive stats with the exception of the ability haste, between the armor, health, magic resistance, as well as the health on the mythic passive, this tells us that this item is exclusively meant for tanks. In addition to the exclusivity for tanks, because this is more of an armor-heavy item versus Turbo Chem Tank, which is an MR-heavy item, this tells us that this would be an item more considerable to use against AD-heavy teams versus MR-heavy teams. Now, jumping down to the passive portion, we see this item has two passives. So starting with the first one, it reads as follows: Unique Immolate. Taking or dealing damage activates this passive for 3 seconds, refreshed in combat. Deal 12 to 30 based on level, plus 1% of your bonus health as magic damage every second to enemies within a 325 unit radius. This radius is increased with your size, and I'll give that some context in a second. Increased by 25% bonus damage against minions and 150% against monsters. Now, to give quick context to the units portion, basically what this means is the bigger you are, the wider range the AoE damage is going to deal. And taking a look at the second part of this passive, it reads as follows: Unique Snowbind. Basic attacks create a 250 unit frost field that slows enemies within by 25% plus 4% per 1000 maximum health for 1.5 seconds on a 4-second cooldown. Now, akin to the old Iceborne Gauntlet, which used to be reversed, where the size of the slow would scale off of the amount of armor you had, but the slow amount would be flat. Now we have a set amount for the size of the slow, but the slow can increase based off of how much health you have. Another thing to note is if you remember, Iceborne used to be a Sheen item, which means it would proc off of your abilities every 1.5 seconds in between auto attacks. Now we have a 4-second cooldown flat, and you don't have to worry about activating abilities to activate this passive. And as always, because this is a mythic item, this is limited to 1, so you can only buy 1 and no more. So now that we've covered the basic stats as well as the passives for this item, I want to get into the epic items that build into this, as well as the proper build path in which Frostfire Gauntlet should be built. So the first item we're taking a look at is Balmy Cinder. For 1100 gold, this gives us 300 health and a mini Immolate passive, which reads as follows: Taking or dealing damage, i.e. in combat, causes you to begin dealing 15 plus 1% of your bonus health as magic damage per second to nearby enemies, increased by 25% damage against minions and 25% against monsters for 3 seconds, refreshed during combat. Now, the reason we want to build Balmy Cinder first is because this gives us health, which is a defensive stat that allows us to soak some damage, but this is also the only offensive item that is in the build path. So because this gives us extra wave clear as well as magic damage for trading and fighting with enemy champions in lane, this is going to be the first item that we want to rush. Now, for your second and third item, this is going to depend upon what your matchup is in lane. After Balmy Cinder is built, if you are dealing with an AP matchup, then you are going to want to build Null Magic Mantle second for the extra magic resist. If not, and you're against an AD champion, then you're going to want to build Chain Vest. And then once you have all 3 of these items built, plus 850 gold, you'll have your Frostfire Gauntlet completed and ready to go. So now that we've taken care of the proper build path with Frostfire Gauntlet, I want to get into the visuals and animations and what you'll expect to see with this item. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is the Immolate on Balmy's Cinder. So you can see here that standing out of combat, you get an animation akin to the old Sunfire Cape. And when you enter combat, you'll see that this orange animation doubles and looks kind of like an orange gear, and this will tell you that this item is in combat. And you'll also notice that while you're dealing damage to your enemy, there will be a blue number that ticks off indicating that this item is dealing damage. Now, taking a look at a fully built Frostfire Gauntlet, we notice a few things. First of all, Malphite gets a Freljordian symbol underneath him, meaning that this item is fully built. Secondly, when we are out of combat, this symbol does not pulsate. However, when we enter combat, this symbol starts to pulsate, and we get a swirling frostfire ice around us, meaning the Immolate passive is now active and we are in combat. Secondly, with the other part of this passive, you'll notice that with our auto attacks, we also get the Frostfire around our enemy when we auto attack, indicating that they are being slowed while they are standing in this. And when we look down to the item slot that it's in, it is now on cooldown, meaning that in 4 seconds it will be ready to use again. So back when I was doing the stat rundown for this item, I said I was going to give context to the 6% increase in size per legendary. So in this side-by-side comparison, you can see on the left-hand side Malphite with no legendary items, but just his mythic. On the right-hand side, however, this is Malphite with boots, his mythic, as well as 4 legendaries, capping him out at 6 item slots. So as you can tell, this item makes champions pretty darn big. So if you want to experiment and see what other champions you can get massive, go right ahead. But this is what this item is capable of in terms of visual changes. Well guys, that's all I have for you today. With Frostfire Gauntlet being a new mythic added to the arsenal of items in League of Legends, this is a great item to increase your champion size as well as stack armor against AD heavy teams and provide good peel with an extra slow to add to your kit. Don't forget to hit me up on Twitter as well as for some awesome video game photography. Hit me up on Instagram, and as always, guys, we will see each other again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.